it's hard for me to say what the world is waking up to, because all I know is how I'm waking up to it. But when I wasn't truly nearly as self-aware as I am now, going through the process, really just wanting to be in a band because I loved what I was feeding on, that energy that I was feeding on, and going through the military, and going through my phases with drugs, and even the very beginning of getting into the films, I think what I began realizing was that there are these subtle differences that I began picking up on. There's a reason why I was really just into music at the time when I saw Zeitgeist and got into Michael Tessarion, and I started, I knew about conspiracy, but I began picking up on something. And my hat tips, and I honor Peter Joseph for what that did for me. But I can say that it was a very, very minute, small difference between what he had done and anything else that I had seen before. And it seemed that minute difference was truly coming from service, a feeling of service. My first way of being able to put the puzzle pieces together in that way, that there is another way of approaching my art. There is another way to use this that isn't just I write a good song, I get good feedback, and then I get something out of it. Peter Joseph, just to explain that story, he made a film called Zeitgeist in 2007, and when I watched it, there was no name, there was no credits, no credit in a sense. At the end, there was just a website, thezeitgeistmovie.com, and I went to the website, and he didn't have his name, he didn't have a picture of himself, there was nothing about the dude who made the film. There was no credit that he was taking, nor did he give credit to anybody that may have helped him, even though I think he did it probably all himself. But just the seed of what that planted inside me was something far beyond what I had imagined before, because it was bypassing a whole level of, at the end, for just $9.99.99 you can have this DVD and 15 copies and yada yada yada. It didn't seem like it was an economic model of sustaining his lifestyle and bringing money in. What I felt was the difference between the old model, the old paradigm, and the new paradigm here's a gift to humanity. It's not a product for humanity, it was a gift to humanity. And it was almost like raising a flag saying, hey, there seems to be something emerging here. And he called the film Zeitgeist, which is the spirit of the times, if you will. This thing that seems to sweep people's imaginations at any given time. And what do you know, that film caught millions upon millions, I would say maybe even close to 500 million people within the past 5 years, caught their attention. And it did something very different than other films. There were documentaries online. There were even free documentaries online. But there was something about this one that seemed that it was offered in service rather than offered with the expectation of getting something in return from it. So the reason why the first time I actually did a full tour in Australia, of the East Coast at least, I did this talk called The Inevitable Age of Art. Whether I actually believe it's inevitable or not, I just placed those words because I was actually going to call it The Inevitable Edible Age of Art, because, the incredible edible egg. I decided to use a play on words, and I didn't even realize why I gave that title. It just sounded funny, The Incredible Edible Age of Art, the Digestible Age of Art. What I felt emerging at that point was there was an idea that nobody fathomed before. Maybe we all have the capacity to really give in service, but in an economic model, in this framework, you almost think, I don't have time for that. And like my parents told me, Ben, you spent 6 months on those films, you should really not be giving them away for free. You should be charging. This is your way of living, and if people don't understand that you need to make a living, then that's their issue. And I didn't even know how to verbalize it at the time, but yeah, but that doesn't seem like what I want. That's not what I wanted to get out of this, you know? Because in a sense, I don't even know what I even want out of this, but I know that I'm doing it, and I know that this is the way that I'm doing it. And they said, well, Ben, you're never going to make a living that way. And I challenged them. I was like, I don't know why, I don't know how, but I really do feel that you're mistaken with that, you know? So I started making films and giving them, you know, free. And not that I believe that that specific act is what people should be doing. I believe it reflects something that I was waking up to. Wow, there's more ways than just one to look at this, you know, this world that we're living in. So that was my way of seeing Peter Joseph and Dylan Avery, people that I believe they really paved the way for a new paradigm, this artistic embodying our ability to be able to serve and not worry about some economic model or some system to support our living. We have what we need, in a sense. And this was a gift to say, wake up, darling. It almost felt like that motherly energy again, saying, wake up. There's something else happening here. There's something else emerging. And to me, that was a brand new paradigm. So when I speak about there's this new paradigm emerging, or we're stepping into a new era, I can really only say that because I feel that that's something that I'm waking up to, and something is being stripped away, or at least, you know, Neo being unplugged and being able to see the system for what it was. Same old Neo, just without this veil, without this, you know, allure to seeing the glamour and the glitz and the lights and the flashiness and the instant gratification of what you can get from a monetary system and something that we're living in. No wonder there's so many movies that are like, wake up, you know, out of this system or a box or this program or a matrix. They use this terminology because it really just feels like a thought form. That once you realize there's something outside of the thought form, then you realize that the room outside of the thought form is never ending. You can keep expanding and expanding to infinity. So, to me, art was what helped wake me up to that new emerging paradigm. It was art that really was my process, because I realized that I'm a musician, and I'll just end it with these terms. I'm a musician, and I began realizing that year after year after year, there was something that, you know, people were complimenting on me on my voice, but I realized there was something that was forced, that was contrived, that was trying to do something. It wasn't just coming out. So I always looked at that metaphorically. My real voice isn't just naturally emerging, I'm forcing it to do something. And I began noticing that my throat started, I started having strep throat 3-4 times a year. Now that was also because of all the inoculations in the military that I was getting. But, you know, again, I was looking at it metaphorically in an abstract way. It wasn't clinical, dry, clear cut. I was saying, okay, what could this mean? Which means I have to, you know, arrive at that halfway. I have to meet it halfway. I have to open, instead of closing into an idea, I have to open to what actually is happening and feel it, observe it. And I recognized that my art form of singing and performing music was an ever-evolving process that was showing me a metaphor of something that I wasn't opening and allowing, that was happening on a level that isn't physical. So that whole process of emerging, from, you know, going from one paradigm into this new paradigm, you could call it an artistic paradigm, but, you know, I don't think it really deserves or needs a label on it whatsoever. I just know that this paradigm is far beyond what I had imagined it before, and just my ability to be able to imagine that there's something beyond this allowed for me to open up to it. It's almost like when you, trying to think of an example, when you first hear of the fact that there are other planets and other things going on outside, and you're not so focused on this, then your imagination can kind of lift and you start realizing, oh, maybe there's more that I haven't experienced in life. You know, you can externalize it and say maybe there's extraterrestrials out there, but also maybe there's more in here. Maybe the journey goes deeper in here.